everyone, it's David Ault, and I want to welcome you to The Gathering. This is the guest bedroom edition. While there's a lot of activity and hubbub going on in the rest of the house, we host a once a month Ram Dass meetup group. It's open to the public, and people come and we meditate together. We do kirtan chanting. We listen to a portion of a Ram Dass teaching, and then we talk about it, and then we eat delicious food. And what's been beautiful is the evolution of these meetups and how they have grown so much over time to where we have to move all the furniture and make space for everybody. And it's a beautiful way to create an offering to people and a way to be of service to people. But there's been a definitive evolution in the crowd and their receptivity to that. And I think one of the things is there is a commitment on my and my partner's part and all the people who help us run the meetup to practice something. It's called affability. Now, affability by definition is just likability, or the ability to be able to be present and cordial in a crowd. But I go to the definition of affability via Albert Einstein because someone asked him what it must be like to be termed a genius. And he said, one cannot be a genius unless they possess affability. And his definition of affability was not just being courteous, but it was the ability to take the most complex situation or formula or principle or idea and be able to cordially bring it to a kindergartner or someone who is deemed uneducated. He says, if I am not able to create an affable environment and an understanding of the most complex thing in a simple form, then I'm not a genius. He said, that's what genius is. And I think about that a lot because I know that there have been many stations in my life where I've been confused and unconscious and ignorant about many things. And it was through the affability of very wise teachers and environments that allowed me the the allowed my curiosity to grow and my fears to be dispelled at the same time. And those qualities, I think, are really, really important when you and I are talking about all things infinite. All things infinite. One of my highly favored books is this. It's called I Am That, and it's by the great Indian teacher and saint Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Nisargadatta Maharaj. And it is a book filled with nothing but questions and answers. Questions from the typical person who would come to his teachings and lectures, and then his answers. And many of his answers, I find, create that sense of affability. And I've been continuously trying to find my role in that as someone who I don't want to even call myself a teacher much anymore, but someone who is opened to sharing what it is that I'm learning. And when I think about that and I look at the vastness of this knowledge in the book, I Am That, I open to one section and the question says, I am a person and therefore limited in space and time. I occupy little space and last but a few moments. I cannot even conceive myself to be eternal and all-pervading. And this, of course, is interjected from a long-standing conversation about our eternal nature. And Maharaj's answer was, nevertheless, you are. What does he mean? Nevertheless, you are. So I go back to the question, I cannot even conceive myself to be eternal and all pervading. And he says, nevertheless, you are. As you dive deep into yourself in search of your true nature, you will discover that only your body is small and only your memory is short, while the vast ocean of life is yours. That simple reply is, I acknowledge the fact that you and I, as these lay people, as these humans, cannot conceive of something that falls under the experience and the totality of something that is infinite. See, we have a word for it, but we can't grasp it. We have to be honest that we will never be able to grasp the totality of infinity, because that in and of itself is a paradox, because there is no beginning. And yet that is what we are. So when we keep moving in the stations of our life from ignorance to a little bit of awareness, ignorance to a little bit more awareness, ignorance to a little bit more awareness, there is this gradual unfolding that lends us into the vastness of who we are. And I think it's vital for you to understand that, and to watch the way in which we get trapped and expecting people to get something that they're simply not. I don't even want to say ready. They're simply not positioned in their life to get or to understand. It doesn't mean that they are lower than you or I. It doesn't mean that they are unredeemable. It doesn't mean anything other than that is a reference point of where they are in the evolution of returning back to the vastness of who they are, the vastness of owning the vastness of their ocean of life. And so the interesting thing about owning the vastness of your ocean of life is it doesn't operate in this little sort of segmented, measurable way. Something could happen to you. It could be sort of an accumulation of willingness that's been held in a vibrational escrow. And then all of the sudden, there is a tipping point, and a vast amount of waves of the ocean of life could come in, and you, if we have to apply measure, could go from here all the way to here in terms of a quantum leap in consciousness. It isn't a little opening and a little opening and all the time. Sometimes it is. Sometimes we go through entire lifetimes where we just barely crack the surface through the soil of what is available. So there are souls walking around who are that. There are souls who are quantum leaping, leapfrogging in vast celestial speed up. And each person is mirroring every other person's journey, because there actually is only one journey. And so as you look at those that you might differ or get frustrated with or be angry with, or just so fed up, think about the phrase, you can't hurry the harvest. You cannot hurry the harvest of a human who isn't ready for the harvest, who has barely been seeded, who has barely even begun to be watered or nurtured or cracked through the surface. And so not everyone is standing in that same position in the timeline. And so when you encounter people like that, which we do every day, the job is not to demand something of them, but to demand something of yourself, to begin to notice where they are, to begin to consider their situation, to begin to understand in the cycle of their reawakening to the vastness of the ocean of their life, that you were once exactly where they were, exactly where they were. And so there is an invitation for compassion. There is an invitation for you to apply affability, per Albert Einstein, and wisdom and encouragement, all not through here, let me teach you, but through simple acts of kindness, through moral examples of consequence, through not enabling others necessarily out of pity, but doing the many things that it takes to teach another person how to fish, that kind of stuff. It is an invitation for patience and all kinds of things to look at where our ego might create some lofty superiority. So, like with these meetups, there were many people who didn't know anything about chanting and were ignorant about chanting or didn't like chanting. And then all of a sudden, when they continue to show up, they realize that chanting is nothing more than a method by which we get to empty the intellect and just move into a space of devotion, singing the names of God. It isn't any different than any other form of singing or devotional practice in other spiritualities or religion. It just happens that it might be in Hindu or Sanskrit. Um, and so it's interesting to watch the resistance of things that we have been ignorant of, or this is too foreign, or I don't like this, to begin to dissolve. It's been interesting to notice people who were confused a little bit, perhaps, by the teachings of Ram Dass, which is very non-dual, uses a lot of multidimensional examples, but is very, very affable and very accessible for people. And it's a gateway to them to begin to understand that not everything is as they seem. These meetups have become a place for community, for people to participate at the level that they want to participate in. And each of those things are sort of an example that is sprouting the individual harvest within another person. And they come and go. It's not a requirement. They come, they go, they come, they go. Some people have come steadily the entire time. Some have shown up once, some have shown up over the course of a year. They move, and you start to see the flow, the fluidity by which everyone is gleaning and finding and experiencing what it is that is their touchstone to the vastness, the remembrance of the vastness of their ocean of life. And so, yeah, of course, you and I wake up every day unable to grasp the vastness of what we are. And oftentimes it takes reminders. And so I close today with this, that you are that. You are vastness immeasurable. There is, everything has already been worked out. These are not blasphemous statements. These are not bypassing statements. These are nothing more than universal truths, recognizing that that which is the eternal, as above, so below, everything is the same, mirroring one another. And we are experiencing only what we can experience at the level of awareness of the vastness of the ocean of life where we are in this moment. And sometimes that awareness is just so tiny, so tiny. And no one is void of that. So again, it isn't about proselytizing and winning and teaching and convincing and condemning other people. It's understanding, oh my God, wherever they are in their karmic loop is where they are. What is my role here? First of all, my role is not to get caught up in the superiority. My role is not is to really note the condemnation by which the us and them, the othering that I am participating in. It isn't to eradicate any kind of involvement, advocacy, feeding people, eliminating suffering, but not doing that from a superiority. Oh, look at what I'm doing, but doing it realizing that what you are representing is the vastness of the ocean. And you're not there to have to prove anything, to force anything. And it's an ongoing lesson. It's an ongoing lesson for me because I get caught in the personality of humanness. I get caught in the forgetfulness, the veil of forgetfulness that tells me that resources are there. I get caught in the slumber, going back to sleep, as the poet Rumi would say, with regards to whether or not things will work out, whether it's the nonprofit or the global education or this or that and the other. And it's like, oh my God, David, you are the vastness of the ocean. Act that way. Accept that. Know that you are that. And if I practice that, if that is my devotional practice every day, not proselytizing, not convincing, not trying to get you to buy something or sign up for something, just being that, what happens is that without our awareness, other people are finding the energy and the inner permission to do the same thing for themselves. So the question, and I know you've asked this too, because we all do, I'm just a person, and therefore I'm limited in space and time. There's no argument in that because these are just temporary suits by which we are incarnating and experiencing our karmic evolution. I occupy little space and last but few moments. No argument there. So I cannot even conceive myself to be eternal and all pervading. I cannot even conceive. And then he says, but nevertheless, you are. So whether you can conceive it or not, or accept it or not, you are that. You are that, and you will never be denied that. As you dive deep into yourself in search of your true nature, you will discover that only your body is small or your memory is short, but all the while, the vastness of the ocean of life is yours. And so here is the thing. As you dive deep into yourself, please dive deep into yourself. Please become curious as to the repetitions and the cycles, and do it from a place of observation and compassion, not from reprimand. You've been reprimanded enough. Know that within you is that affability that has the capacity to know things that you might consider complex that are actually quite simple. It's quite simple to say that you are the vastness of the ocean of life, and it's quite complex to find a way to own that. Let's do that together. Let's know that we are that. You are that. I am that. And as you go about your path this week, notice it's not your responsibility to hurry the harvest of anyone else. It is your incredible opportunity to devotionally sit and remove and dissolve all resistance to the fact that you are the totality of all of life. Till next time, blessings.